Regular session, Nogales Housing Authority Board of Commissioners meeting, 3 p.m. Wednesday, February the 12th, 2020, City Hall Complex. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk, will you please?
Thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Call to the public. I see there's a line at the door for call to the public.
Yeah, you said you want to get out of here by 4 o'clock, so keep it going.
Okay, number 4. This is the first time I see this, but somebody's going to have to explain this to me. Outstanding compliance fines.
I think that one was just terminology that should be on the agenda. However, we don't have anything to report.
Okay, thank you very much. Number 5, housing resolutions. Consideration and possible action on housing resolution 2020-02-01. Hello, Commissioners.
So move, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, discussion?
No, but I'd like to see a presentation.
Yes. Go ahead.
Well, it'll be all verbal if you guys don't mind.
Yes.
So part of HUD funding is for us to delineate a 5-year plan to include the 1-year plan to see what kind of funding we could obtain and obligate towards to. So I'd have to zoom in here because my eyesight is bad. Okay. But anyways, in the long term is we are obligating some money or hoping to obligate some money for new appliances, stoves, refrigerators, water heaters, stuff like that. And we wish to have the commissioners, and I apologize again, to adopt it so we can move forward with this and obtain the funding. Again, it's just upkeeping, maintenance, replacing the old, come in with the new, having some funds to be able to do so. Our units are just as old as I am, so stand brand new. We just need to get some work on it as soon as we can.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Robert, the question that I have, is this in addition to the 5-year plan that was submitted last year? Is it an adjustment, an addition, or is this another 5-year plan?
This is a brand new plan.
Brand new
one, yes. It's a brand new one. We opted to go forward with a different one, per se, for a lot of reasons. Primarily, we believe that we should obligate for the appliances and the maintenance and all this good stuff for our residents. That's the main thing. There's some issues that were predetermined back then that are not a priority. For example, fencing, we want to replace them. Why replace it? Let's throw it away because it's just a bigger hazard than anything. We'll revisit that down the road. Certain stuff like that we believe on our last inspection we were dinged on, and it's best to remove than try to repair. So we just have to change it.
That answers my question.
We have to change it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Did you cross your T's and dot your I's and everything on this 5-year plan?
I have full faith in staff.
Okay, so that you don't get anything coming back from
HUD.
our Phoenix house?
No, they should be good. They've seen a preview of it already, and they're in accordance with it. Something that I learned is we are at times allowed to move a little, take from Peter to give the call depending on the circumstances, and we will discuss that later on. And I think we're on the right path with this. If there's any funding left over, we should be able to obligate that through the right means, and of course bring it up for an amendment as needed to the board, specifically just to that one thing. I wouldn't want to bring another 5-year plan to anybody.
Yeah. And also, I remember we discussed that some of the work inside the dwellings, not the exterior, inside the dwellings, it was recommended that you hire a contractor to do if it was too much work for our maintenance guys. Is that being done?
Absolutely true. In fact, we have a plumber coming in soon to take care of some plumbing issues for us.
Okay.
And then, as you'll see in our resolutions later on, I think it's the next one, you'll see a contractor or some bids coming in for some stuff. And then we have some more that's out for bid on the modernization. We should get those back.
Probably next week.
next week sometime, and we'll open those up, go with the best bid, not just based on funding or money, but go on the best one with a better quality. We'll leave it at that, and we'll bring that up. We'll bring it up at the next month's thing.
Because I know that was some of the problems in the past.
We were falling
that,
behind.
you weren't, it wasn't being assigned to somebody else professionally.
Correct.
Instead of doing it ourselves, and you know, repair and maintenance is one thing, something serious is something.
Right, and we are facing some heavy-duty plumbing issues when it comes down to sewage. We almost called in city guys to help us out earlier this week, but we were able to get it cleared up. But we also have a different contractor, plumbing contractor, coming in to give us a really good assessment of what the future has for us down on Igloo. Yeah, some old piping, really old piping.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yes, I noticed that on the bidding, are you bidding for parts and labor or just the labor?
It's everything,
Everything?
everything.
Because on all the grants, there's I think you were allocating some funding for maintenance materials. And also on your general budget, you have, I think you allocated $100,000 last year.
Right.
So in addition to that, you're adding those 30-some thousand?
Correct. What we've been finding is we're sometimes a little bit too conservative. And why be conservative if we need it? Big thing that we saw is, or that we're going to see when we talk about the UFAS building a little bit, is one-stop shop, all included. Give me a dollar figure, multiply it by whatever units we have, and we'll send it out for funding, and still still ask for the funding for the maintenance. A lot of our units they're up there in age. We are switching out old doors, old hollow doors for solid core doors. They last longer. They're a little bit more expensive, but they last longer. I don't have to replace 3-4 doors every 3 years when I can just do it once and forget about it for a significant amount of time. So between everybody, we're putting our heads together, trying to figure out what's best. Again, we're going for quality, not so much the quantity anymore. I think our residents deserve more at this point, and we're trying to do that. So hopefully HUD's on the same page we are. I'm asking the commissioners also to see if we can do that. But yeah, I wouldn't want to reduce our budgeting because we just never know.
Are those UFAs, are you talking about the 8 units on the bottom of the rail?
Yes.
Not the Section 8?
The 711, the 711 units.
Okay.
Yes. 77. Thank you.
And the other question I have is, I noticed that on every year for the 5-year plan, you have the same amount, 556,378.
Two and a
That's
half.
the one that we were talking about.
Yes.
So is that how you spreading out that?
That's how we're spreading it out within the 5 years. And again, we have a little bit of leverage or a lot depending on how you see things and are able to present it. But ultimately, it'd be conversations with that saying, hey, we think we lowballed it, or to what extent, or we overdid it on here. May we re-obligate or obligate it somewhere else? And if the answer to that question is yes, we would always come to you, to the board, and say, is it a good idea? So we're hopeful that 2.5 would be good throughout. Now again, if there's a big issue in the near future, we would have to, we would really have to sit back, yeah.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
Mayor, with your permission, could I please ask Mr. Hawkins a question?
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
all the questions that have been asked, especially the financial ones, are pertinent, but what I want to make sure of is the community's input into this 5-year plan.
Yes.
And I noticed here that on December the 17th, you had a meeting of the Resident Advisory Board, which
Yes,
you
we
were
did.
at.
Yes, I was.
And I noticed of the 10 people that are on the committee, only 3 showed up. So if you only have 3 that show up, how do you get input from how do you say and justify, I got input from the community?
The way we based it off of, we actually had the head of the RAP board, which is Mrs. Murrieta over there. She relays it to the rest of the community or community members that we have in the area. They said yes, they liked the ideas, where the funding was going. We've also been going, Frida and myself, which is the public housing specialist, have been going to board meetings periodically. So we've been getting input from them since, I could say since September, October. We've been going every once a month or so to get input from them and asking them questions, and that's where we got the refrigerators and stoves to replace, painting of the exterior buildings, and all these little line items that we've added. So we've been periodically going, so when we went and only had 3 members, we felt confident that the 3 members were enough to tell us for the whole group of what they actually wanted and their input of the 5-year plan.
How do you derive that 3 people supersede the thoughts of the other 7?
Would not be able to answer that, but
Well, let me go back
Mhm,
here
yeah.
then to Mrs. Murrieta. Ms. Murrieta, Mr. Hawkins says that you go out and talk to other people. Tell me how you do that. I just want to be convinced that
I mean,
this
we
5-year
have
plan is
a
a
meeting
part.
every Tuesday, so we went 3 people to that meeting.
Who has a meeting every Tuesday?
Us,
the rap.
The
rep?
rep,
Okay.
yeah. So 3 people went to that meeting. The following Tuesday, I talked to them about what happened, what we talked about, the 5 plan, and they did agree to it.
But not formally, just conversations.
Well, they went too. Martin and Frida went to it.
Going on the Tuesday meetings at 10 a.m. at the gymnasium, which is open again to the public, and all the resident members are aware of that.
And do you have a record of that meeting in this 5-year plan? Because I didn't
That
see
one
it. I don't see
I
that.
think we do.
On your guys' meetings
Yeah.
with Ms. Caña should
I
have.
may
a
have it,
record.
but I don't see it here as part of the 5-year plan so I can say that, yes, this is what the people want. These public hearings, I don't want somebody to come and tell me, hey, I didn't have a say. When did they meet? There was only 3 there. All these meetings that you say every Tuesday, why aren't they documented in the 5-year plan?
We also had the 45 days of the public discretion public item. We publicized it on the internet as well as on the newspaper, so the public was aware of these items. We had them on there at our office for public viewing for anybody that wanted. And
So how do I know who went? Any comments?
no comments. Nobody came in, and we had a item list that nobody came in and physically saw those.
Well, Mr. Hawk, that's the one thing that maybe you guys can. I know we're floating around with directors and
exactly.
this and that, but you know, Mayor, we're responsible to make sure that the people are having input into this. That's my main concern. This is a 5-year plan, and I want to make sure that the residents have. That I mean, it's okay to go, but when you go take something so you can justify it to us that you guys went and got these opinions, who you got it from, because, you know, it's the 7 of us that are going to be on the line for this. And when 7 people and only 3 people are there, and you still conduct the meeting, then I wonder, well, there's not a quorum there. There's not a quorum there, so how'd you have a meeting and come to these conclusions? So that's the only concern that I have. The rest is fine. What you guys are doing with that $500,000 every 2.5 years, and what you want to do for the modernization is great. But I just want to make sure that the people have a say of what is going to happen there. That's my concern, Mayor. If you can just, as you're working on this, just be a little bit more getting things documented.
Organized.
Yeah, so you just don't come up and, well, this is what I did, because this is what I did, and not that I don't trust you, Mr. Hawkins, but I kind of have justification here, though, too. What's the name of the lady from Phoenix?
Marta?
Miss
Marta.
Duron.
If Marta Duron comes and asks me something, well, how do you know? I don't know. This is what they told me. So, that's my only concern here, is that.
Commissioner, go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you. You know, to follow up with that's a really good point. You need to have, if you look at us in our situation today in our mayor and council meetings, we have the minutes, we have Letty taking the minutes. And that's very important because again, we go back to, well, they said, well, what did they say? How can you justify that? How can we justify that? And if you're gonna have somebody, and again, guys, you've been doing this for a long time. You need to have a secretary. If you're gonna have an officer, have the officers, whatever officers, but you need a secretary to write down those minutes. What was said? I mean, you really can't come to us and the rest of the commissioners and say, well, they said, well, but what did they say? What did they say? You can't just make a general statement of, well, we got their input. Well, what was their input?
Next time on the future agenda items, I will go ahead and talk to the RAP board meetings. I do know that they have a secretary, so I will go ahead and ask for those minutes to go ahead and include them with any discretionary items that we have by then for future stats. if that be.
would be
That
I mean, we
would be
do
good.
have it.
Yeah.
Mrs. Cañas has it.
Okay, I would just ask Ms. Gañez for future stands to relay or email, not just myself, but I could email the head and the commissioners and let the commissioners aware of the discussionary items that were discussed that day. That way, we, like you said, we can all be in agreement.
You know, go ahead.
One quick question. Ms. Murrieta, just for the record, can you tell us more or less how many people show up at those rap meetings?
Between 10 and 15 people we have now. Because every Tuesday, new people come in, and so it's between 10 and 15.
And you consider they do participate in,
Yes.
in the meetings and everything?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, one question. Yeah, I also noticed that there's only 3 there. And I was figuring, you know, these people are appointed for how long?
To
Do
my
they-
knowledge, they're not. They're volunteers.
Volunteers, yeah, but they do show up.
Yes, they do show up. The
But
one
you
that we
never
appoint-
have, if you're gonna, say you have 10, you never have 5? Because I'll just give you an idea. I was coming out of a meeting the other day, and one of the board members was sitting outside. And he wanted to talk to me, but I had other things to do. And I said, what was the problem? He says, I need to talk to you about something's happening in some meetings. And I said, well, we're having a meeting today. I said, why don't you come and express yourself? He says, I'll be there. So he's not here. Okay? And he's one of the board. So he's one of the ones that was there. Okay, so now I can't believe somebody that wasn't there when I had already seen the list, what they're gonna explain. So I don't know if it's negative or positive or something. But I mean, the people that should go to those are people that are really gonna communicate, like the commissioner said. They're gonna communicate with the rest of the tenants and everybody that's involved in there. Because it only makes you look good, you know, the more input you get. You know? And believe me, it doesn't have to be good input. It could be negative, but it's good input to us to find out if it's something's good or not. Because I mean, you don't want to hide the negative. You really want to put the positive on top, of course. But I mean, I think it'd be best so that be more open for all of us to see, and for you guys to see. Because I mean, if you only have 3 people giving input, and you say that you went to talk to other people and some of the residents, okay, all that information you got from all those residents you talked to, if it was 10, 5, or 6, that should be compiled.
We
The
do have
information.
it in a file.
Yeah. You have, you know, so you can tell me actually the people you talked to what their needs were.
Yeah.
You could?
Mhm.
Good. See, those are the things that you wanna be able to be. I mean, it cleans you up a little bit.
Exactly. We'll go ahead and start doing that for the future agenda items, so we
Yeah.
can go ahead and
Yeah.
try to have everybody on the same level page.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
on this rap board, what is Paulette Pineda? What's her role in the rap board? Does she have a role in the rap board?
No, she is part of our Section 8 programming.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
our Housing Choice Voucher
Right.
Committee member. So she represents our HCV vouchers.
And then on the voucher program, that's a part of these improvements, and I saw that in there. That's not a part of it?
No, not that.
No, Section 8 is,
Okay,
So the section is standalone dependent on the actual property.
okay, that's, I know it's a problem, okay. So then Paulette doesn't have any. All right. It's just that I feel it could be enhanced
If I'd
more,
like to say
the
something.
documentation
Give them a
of
month to replace my dryer.
input from the community.
I think we should implement the minutes or something to that extent into the agenda for your review prior to the meeting. And this way, you know what was talked, discussed, who was present, and everything. Basically, we're trying to standardize it and formalize it just a tad more, so everybody is transparent.
Okay. That's the only thing.
you were gonna say something? Go ahead, say it.
No, I just wanted, it took them a month to replace my dryer.
You mean, but at a private home or private apartment,
Well, I live at the Bowman.
at the Bowman, okay, but that's Section 8, right?
That's Section
Yeah.
8.
Section 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know how to light a fire under them.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't have taken a month.
Is she on Section 8?
Yes, she's on section HCB.
Especially those, because that's a new, that's a new.
Yeah,
area.
that's a newer area.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Section 8 we have, he's on top of it all the time. He wants me to change the plugs.
Exactly.
Just so I don't know. He,
Wants you to change.
plugs, stairs, doors.
It's all based off of the H2S. It's
Yeah,
housing quality
I'm not-
standards.
I'm not being, I mean, but I'm saying, you know, and we try to do it as soon as possible. Because he comes back for the following week to see if we did it.
Well, Mayor,
Because we have Section 8 to give
yeah.
us.
This 5-year plan,
Yes.
I am supportive of it. I just, the weakness that I found in it was the lack of proper documentation of the input that we are receiving from the community on this. That's the only thing. Everything else is fine. I like what you're doing, how you're modernizing, how you spread out your finances there, what you're going to do. I'm supportive of that. And the modernization, especially the height of the cabinets now, 32 inches above, I think all of that's great. But it's not very good to that who you got the input from. And you have the input according to you,
It's
but
just-
you didn't document it for us.
Yes.
Okay.
Call for the,
Thank you.
I'm ready.
Okay. Call for the
Call
question.
for the question.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 2, consideration possible action of Housing Resolution 2020-02-02.
So move.
Second.
Thank you very much. Discussion?
The only thing here, Mayor, is as I went through this is, I noticed that we're having a little concern with the pensions. If it's not with the police, or
It's
we
with
always have
everybody.
something with the pensions here. And here again, I just want to make sure that, are we doing okay financially there with the pensions? Because it's kind of highlighted there that,
Yes, actually, Jeanette,
Could you please, on the podium, please? Sure, thank you.
actually, Jeanette Parrales, the finance director, helped our auditors with the information they needed. So, we are good.
you are what?
The numbers, yeah,
Yes.
they're correct.
Okay. So that I don't have to worry about that?
You don't have to worry about it.
This is on the record.
It's on the record, yes.
If not, Mr. Henesiano will contribute his $35,000 from the property to the
To the
fund.
housing.
Marcia will contribute another 35.
I second that motion.
All in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Are we okay with that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
a question on the audit report on page 16 of the packet. It says packet page 67, but then on the bottom says 16. Reporting entity definition. It says the Housing Authority is a separate nonprofit corporation with a board of commissioners. The mayor appoints the board of commissioners. However, the Housing Authority has complete legislative, administrative authority, and it recruits and employs personnel. The authority adopts that is approved by the Board of Commissioners. Subsidies for operations and are received primarily from HUD. After the last resolution that was approved by the board, by the city council, I talked to Attorney Massey about this, and he says they need to change this because the Housing Authority is not a nonprofit corporation, and it's not separate from the city, from the local government. It's a department of the city. So I think they need to change that.
Well, we need to, have you addressed it? with
No,
the-
no, we just, as soon as the vice mayor brought up, I saw it and I go, that's absolutely true. It's wrong dialogue. So in our next audit, we'll make sure that gets implemented and the right dialogue is in there. As is, yeah, that really contradicts what we know.
Has this been submitted to HUD yet?
No, we're waiting for, they have a copy of it. We were waiting for your approval or adoption of it, so we can submit to HUD, and I think we're gonna have issues with it.
Yeah.
So, we will have this, I don't know if it's possible to have something go through with the provision of it being changed. I'm not too sure
Can
if
we
that could
table
be
it better? Can we table it?
Um,
Or do we have, is it time sensitive?
yes.
It this?
Yes, but I'll talk to the auditors and Mr. Lassie about changing this item.
But I mean, if we approve
Right.
it, we approve it as is, or we approve it with a,
And then what would we be approving, what dialogue would be in? You're absolutely right. The only reason it's time sensitive is we're coming up next month for our fiscal budget. So this would just kind of help us with everything, but we're in a corner here.
Mr. Mayor,
go ahead.
what are the consequences of not having the correct dialogue?
This is just, the way I interpret this is just the way the auditor interpreted the body, per
Yes.
se. I don't see if there's any issues. I don't foresee any consequences on it. Terry, do you think there would be? I just don't foresee any consequences on it. It'd be an issue of dialogue, quite honestly. And it's really easy to just say it is for profit. It's Board of Commissioners and recruits and employment. That's outside. That's part of the city. So we would need to put that in there.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Rich.
motion to amend the main motion to instruct the acting housing director, Mr. Thompson, to attach to the plan a cover letter that indicates the concerns that have been expressed here on the cover letter about that it is not a nonprofit, so that we can submit it, but we want a cover letter to protect ourselves, that statement is inaccurate, so you attach a cover letter to it according to this amended motion to protect us, that we know it's wrong, and we don't want to hold it up, but we're calling it to your attention that page 16, the bottom part, is inaccurate.
Excellent idea. Thank you.
I second that. All right,
I'll call for the question.
all right.
Mayor,
Yes.
before the Councilman Rojas, I pressed the wrong thing, but anyway, it does have a breakdown on revenues and expenses, and I noticed that the administrative expense is high in comparison to what I think it's 16% for administration and expenses. I forgot the page, I pressed the wrong thing here and I lost it, but it's right at the beginning of the breakdown of the first couple of sheets there. But I just think that we're might be spending a little bit too much there on the administration part in comparison to where we should be with the rest of this. Let me see here if I can find it right here. I just think it was kind of high, but Mayor, I just want to call to the attention of them. It was the first pages, and I lost it here. Should have looked at it. Then I moved to page 16, and but if you look at the revenues and expenses, it's broken up. It's on the top part there of a page there. I think that our administrative expenses, here it is on page 60 or page 9. Page 9 of it says right here, administration expenses are for administration 15%, and 19% for me, 33%. I think that breakdown is just a little bit out of whack there for administrative. And it's very evident that this program relies on the federal government
Right.
for its revenue. And with that, Mayor, I concur with Councilman Commissioner Rojas.
One more question.
Yes, go ahead.
On page 35, where it says, is the oddity identified as a low-risk oddity, and it says no? What does that mean? Does that mean we're high risk?
So we're at fair.
Fair?
We can certainly be better. I believe all of us can at any given point in time. So we were fortunate enough to get a fair audit standard. There's some points that we can work on, software, more explanation, notes, et cetera, to get us up to something more of a standard, or higher for that matter. So yeah, we're at a fair at this point, at least for the 2019 cycle.
Yeah, but the only thing, Mayor,
Go ahead.
the only thing of what Commissioner Bojorquez brings out,
we've been in this business for what, 40, 50 years? And I don't understand why we get a check mark, no. Being in the business, as long as we've been in this business, why are we not classified as low risk?
I wish I had an answer, Dr. Otto.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mayor,
Yes.
did we vote on the amended motion?
Yes.
No, we didn't vote on the.
We didn't vote on the
no, we
amended
haven't.
motion. We need to vote on them
Okay.
and then go to
Okay.
the
Right. No, let's vote, this was the vote for the amendment.
amended. Now we go to the main motion.
The main motion. Okay, now we're gonna be voting on the main motion, which we already had a first and second. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 3, consideration possible action of housing resolution 2020-02-03.
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Thank you very much. Discussion?
No, Mayor, I just want to make sure what they're, are you going to auction this?
That, most of these appliances are really just garbage at this point, trash.
Yeah.
We're looking at recycling as much as we can. What happened with these refrigerators and stove, we took parts from one to try to fix the other one, and ultimately both died. So we just gotta get rid of both and replace them with new.
It's all trash.
Yeah, it's all trash at this point. We're hoping for recycling if it's possible.
Call for the question, man.
Yeah,
Mr.
just-
Mr.
Just a
Chair,
question. You know, they do have that Ron Henderson and that, did you?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was our
we
first choice to go
discussed that
speak. Yeah,
already.
we had discussed that, and we were thinking that's probably gonna be the route to go.
See if we can get something out of it.
And the gym equipment, are you going to put in new gym equipment?
We have some already in existence there. We should be able to acquire some more in the plan. Do we have any? So what it is 2 or 3 exercise bikes that are just done. It's just taking so much and so much money and effort to try to keep them afloat that it's best to replace them.
Kind of like the bike that Mr. Hanesian wants to get on, it doesn't go nowhere. It just stays there. Even the pedals are out. Nada.
Let me call Bernie.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
Bernie can take care of it.
just for clarification, when the housing authorities disposes of equipment, it goes direct to the city, and then the city decides if they're going to auction it or dispose of it.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day in my office.
Okay.
Preparing the agenda, and the only thing that I did mention, Commissioners, I did mention to Mr. Thompson that when they do take it to the city, let's not keep it there for auction. If it doesn't work, let the city take care of it immediately, because all we're gonna have is a bunch of junk behind Public Works. This happened before.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid as
Yeah.
well at the yard. There's just too much junk that we just need to get rid of, and by all means, we'll go with whatever the
Because
policies are in place.
we could have
to do
people
that.
go,
Pick up
Jane
the-
Jackson, and look at it and see if it's worth something. But, well, we'll take it from there after we send it to, it has to go to Public Works.
But yeah, that would be up to the city's discretion, you know, if you want to give it away, throw it away, or whatever.
Yes.
But the
Well,
housing authority, once the resolution is approved, they take it out of their books.
Yes.
It's done. And this is just a small snippet. As we buy new stuff, we'll get more and we'll bring in more. So it was probably best to just bring select few items versus bring in a couple hundred of them.
And now, what I do recommend you do is itemize it,
Yes.
okay? Itemize it, and when you pull it out on an apartment, identify the apartment it came out of and what it was, so that, you know, we can always say,
Right.
this was taken to Public Works and Public Works took care of it.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Number 4, consideration possible action of housing resolution 2020-02-04.
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Discussion?
Well, tell us who were the code, who
Um,
bid it, how much it was, and
so
why
we
you're
had-
recommending the low bidder.
We had 3 quotes, and let me just jump into where I'm supposed to be here, Dr. Barona. So we had Esplendor Builders, Casoma, thank you, and Earth Builders. Earth Builders, unfortunately, fortunately, or however you want to see it, they were the lowest bid. However, they were late, and there was still some information lacking in their bid. So unfortunately, they were disqualified. So it was between Casoma and Esplendor. Both are about $20,000 difference. Esplendor running at 179 and Casoma running at 190 something, give or take. I forget what the numbers are. When we did the breakdown, we figured we can get more bang for the buck with Esplendor as they're willing to work with us in steps and other issues. The biggest problem we'll see is we can't really remove 8 residents from this section, because what do we do with them? So we threw out some numbers, some time frames and everything, and we decided that we could probably do 2 to 3 at a time within a month and a half to 2 month time span. Now, if we removed 8 residents, we could probably get it done in 3 months, right, which is a lot quicker, but our main concern is what do we do with the residents? We just can't, impose on their family or what have you. We have some answers waiting for to see if what form of housing we can provide at that point, any offsets or anything. We're still waiting on, we're exploring. Apparently, I think this is the first time we do something to this where we can't move one resident into another vacant residency and leave there. Typically, the Guerrero apartments are elderly, and it's just a little bit difficult to start moving them in and out. So Esplendor was really cool about the fact that we could work this in sections, 2, 3 at a time. So that's kind of like where we're at with them.
Esplendor has a city sales tax or license to do business?
Yes.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's unfortunate that the low bidder didn't meet their obligations. I mean, we do have the right to reject all bids.
Right.
And go out, but I don't think it'd be appropriate. I wouldn't want to submit a bid on time and somebody not submit it, and then you penalize me for submitting.
For somebody else.
Right. So I'm gonna concur with the recommendation for Esplendor, but they have to have all pertinent city licenses.
Yes. I think they've done work before for housing.
Yes.
Esplendor has. So, but just go ahead and talk to them so that if it needs to be revised or whatever they need to do,
Correct.
make sure it's current.
Yes.
And
We'll double check and everything.
Mayor, I know
Yes, go ahead.
they should be current. They're the ones that built the bathrooms up at the Little League.
Little League, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they do a lot of work for the city.
They've done a good job.
Yeah, I guess they're current. So, all right. So,
Is that,
any more discussion on this?
is that part of the 8?
Call for the question.
Yes, those would be the 8 UFAs that we're doing.
Yes? We good? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I am so proud of you guys. And I could take you to dinner.
Where?
But
You
we
sure?
also had a-
You sure?
also had a sandwich day.
far, let's not go that far.
Okay, put it this way, I'm gonna take you to dinner, but it's gonna be in Washington DC.
All right.
All right?
That's even better.
I'm paying, guys.
And
Washington DC.
but I don't go to Trump Tower.
It's gonna be the
Nomás que no
Trump
les
Tower.
dije dónde. Hey, you got it, come on.
Mr. Chair, if I take a minute or two
Yeah,
just
you
to
got,
clarify
you
one
still got
thing.
the director's,
Okay,
report.
so on this UFAS bid that we're gonna move forward on, we had to move some funding from one place to another. We were in contact with HUD about an hour ago. We were given the green light to be able to move funding from one source to do this. Apparently, we were still gonna be short. We were able to find the funding, so I can either break it down as to where it's coming from, or we can just say we're in accordance with HUD regulations to be able to move and fund 100% of the UFAS project that we're trying to work on. So
You okay with that?
I'm okay with it. I got it all in writing.
We voted on it, we're okay. Thank you. Now give us a report.
Reports, we have another bid coming in next week for modernization of some units. We are still seeking a director. We had some good conversations with a few last week. Unfortunately, we couldn't find somebody here. Yeah. So we're back to square one on that one. We'll figure it out soon. As noted earlier today, we should have a little bit more standardizing and formalizing on our rep board meetings so we can present. I think that's a great idea for transparency. As Dr. Varona always says, we got to be transparent, so I'm all for that right now. Aside from that, we're moving forward. Budget talks we're in right now. We're going to present something next month with numbers, and we can hash it out soon on that one. I don't know if the board would rather do a sit down like we do with the rest of the city departments, or just bring it up here.
No, you're gonna sit down.
Sit down? Okay.
Yeah, because we're gonna start our budget process at the end of March.
Okay. Our budget fortunately or unfortunately, needs to be adopted by April 1st.
Yeah.
So I'll check with
Talk to Jeanette.
Jeanette.
Talk to Jeanette, and we're scheduling the time that we're gonna be working on.
We pretty much have the numbers except for the director salary. That seems to be an issue, so we'll address that one.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Thompson, the people that you interviewed, were they local or out of town?
There's one from out of town, one local. Without getting too much into details as to who was who, the local one seemed very prominent as to be a very good choice. His career has been in the business for 20 plus years, where he would travel into housing authorities that were in the troubled section, and his responsibility was to bring those out of the troubled and bring them into standard. So he knows what to look at and what to fix and massage and finesse. So an offer was made to that individual. I don't know the details behind it at this point. I know
So
the
when you
boss is right here, so maybe he can fill some information.
When you say local
Arizona based.
Arizona-based.
Arizona based, yes.
You haven't looked at anybody from local to the community?
Within the community, no, not at this point. We're hoping to get us somebody with HUD experience and housing authority experience, as little as that may be or as much. Like I said, this individual just like it gleamed. We thought it was going to be the person, but unfortunately, we just couldn't make things happen.
But in case those don't pan out, I do recommend. This is my personal. I do recommend you try to see if anybody local. What I mean local from Nogales with a bachelor's or a degree that be worthwhile interviewing,
right?
To see if their capacity takes them in the direction of a future in housing.
And
Because the housing thing, if you do have the technique and the degree and the idea, it could take you in that direction easily. It all depends what kind of degree you have, business administration, business management,
correct.
or anything, or any finances or anything like that. That could probably give you a direction of what kind of person you could probably get, and we could work from there, I think, to see. But I sat down and spoke with the commissioner and believe that.
And the housing experience, I don't think, like Mr. Thompson didn't have any housing experience. Look at he talked like a director now. So he could run the housing authority if he wanted to. So
Yeah,
we
but he doesn't
could
want to take the
discuss that in
uniform
6
off.
months. No.
He doesn't want to take the uniform off. Yes.
so as long as they have management experience,
Yes.
they can catch
Build
on
it
to
up.
us.
Yeah, build it up. Yeah.
So and it is a very good learning experience. I'll say that much. Very good learning experience.
But, Mayor,
Yes.
let me dwell down on Mr. Bohorquez's comment. When you interviewed, did you interview anybody that was an applicant from Nogales?
No, this time around we did not. We wanted to get somebody with the public authority or public housing authority experience. So the answer to your question is no. I think that's probably our next venture.
The next venture.
Next venture.
So you're gonna go out because I know some people are contacting me and said that they
Right.
applied for the job that are local and are qualified.
Correct.
So sometimes people that are local have a commitment to our community,
Exactly right.
not just coming in and saying that they went because that they were problem solvers and they went over to buildings that were in need. That doesn't mean that they qualify for the position.
Absolutely
Or
right.
are they looking at? Are they retired? Or?
Absolutely right, Dr. Oda. Very good points. Very good points.
Yeah, because the worst thing to do is to hire somebody that decides to live in Tucson and come work here.
Right.
And I think the roots are here in Tucson, and it'd be nice. Here in Nogales, and it'd be nice if somebody, But the opportunities are. Go ahead, Commissioner.
But I think, Mr. Mayor, at one of the meetings, I think it was suggested that we look for somebody that had the HUD experience, and I think Marta Duran sent a note or a letter to that effect also, that we should look for somebody
Yeah, but,
that's already had the experience. And I think that's what we kind of suggested, let's look for somebody
Yeah, but
that
the ones that
would
we
come down
suggest,
and straighten out the whole
the
situation.
ones that they talk to, they're talking $120,000,
Yeah,
$130,000.
yeah,
Nogales is not
yeah,
$130,000.
but that's what was said at the time.
Not for that position.
Not for that position.
Mayor, I think what Mrs. Duron said is that the person that is selected, even if they don't have that experience, they have 6 or 8 months to get the certification after that experience. So no matter who we get and they accept, they have 6 to 8 months to pass the exam or take the exam. That's up to them to get that.
Correct.
I mean, you can make a job offer contingent that you pass these exams and you get this certification that protects us. So there's still an avenue there that you can make a job offer contingent upon satisfactory completion of the certification. And that meets their requirements.
No, but we can do it. Totally fine. Okay, we'll move along because this man's, we're burning daylight here. Okay, number 7, current events and activities. Do we have any?
Just the bids that we're gonna open up next week, hopefully move on to the modernizations, and we're gonna break ground on the UFAS as soon as it's possibly, humanly possible to do so. So,
Perfect.
moving forward.
Mayor,
Yes.
and I'd like to get a memorandum from you guys. I want to know what's happening with the director's position.
Sure.
If you interview somebody and the price was too high, I mean, if I'm going to make I want to know what's happening in the past. Don't keep me secluded in the dark.
I'll give you an update on what I came into with the housing position and kind of what I understood, where we are, and now I'm hearing that we'll look at it a different way. So when I came here, I had a stack of resumes and applications. I looked at email correspondence in there back and forth of the first guy that we offered a position to, and it was extremely high, and he was quite unreasonable about what he wanted.
Well, that's a second.
Yeah.
Right. That was the first one prior to me getting here. Right.
But we had one before that, the guy from India. That's
Yeah,
who he's talking
that's what
about?
I'm talking
You're
about.
still dealing on that
No,
one? I
no.
thought we rejected
No,
it.
this is what I'm letting you know, kind of the stage that was set when I got here. Okay, so then I looked at a stack of the same applications really to see if there was anything to pull out from it. There really wasn't, and there were a couple of recent applications that I looked at, and one was extremely qualified. The one that we interviewed in Glendale, he lives in Surprise, and he's the guy that goes around and troubleshoots. And then there was another guy from New Mexico. No, that's separate. That's a different interview. That's for planning and zoning. But so we interviewed him, and we interviewed one guy over the phone.
You interviewed the other guy for housing, but he was a housing manager,
He was more of a housing manager,
not a director.
not a director. My understanding at the time was that we're looking for what was just stated as far as HUD experience, qualified, a person that can manage it. So that's what I was running with. I spent 2.5 hours with Marta up there in Phoenix to pick her brain on this. We have a really good relationship going forward, and we're going to get this thing figured out, but that was kind of where we are. He was offered a position, the guy in Glendale that works at Glendale. He wanted to get stability. He wanted to get a smaller town atmosphere, but what we think happened was that they offered him a permanent position, and there may be $20,000 more to go with it. So, and he's not done with his project in Glendale right now to make a move. So that's kind of where it sits. So he's not a candidate anymore. I had a discussion with Carmen today. We were planning on re-advertising it. I can take a look back at those applications again if we want to go with somebody with a degree and that is local, and see if there's anything in there. I don't remember if there is or not, but
I would.
I can go in that. I can look at that and see where we are. At the same time, we probably want to move forward to advertising again, just to keep this thing moving. But that's what I know is kind of where it sits, unless I left anything out. Right? So we can go with a degree and a person, and look for somebody local. I'll go in whatever direction we need to go. But that was kind of my understanding when I got here. We were looking at somebody a little more experienced and seasoned and more qualified. So that's what I was focused on. And you got to understand, I was looking at a stack of applications that had been sitting because we were kind of waiting for me to get here.
Well, I'll just reiterate what the mayor said. If Mr. Thompson was able to retire tomorrow, he'd be the perfect person to put in that position. He's done a marvelous job in that, okay? But
He's not there yet.
that's what we're looking
Oh,
for. There's a
absolutely.
lot of people here locally that are qualified, a lot of people that came up the ranks, and we didn't turn our back to anybody, so let's consider some of these people all too for the jobs though too.
And I had the same discussion with Mr. Thompson about that position.
Mayor,
You
you
know,
know, this really,
I know.
it really upsets me, these things when they're going like that. Okay, turning their backs on the local people here, especially the ones that are qualified. Okay, bring them, now I rather just say, you can't handle it, we'll take it over them. And if we have to take it over, then there's something wrong there. So the direction is, let's look to see, and don't think that the out-of-towners are gonna solve our problems here. There's a lot of local people with bachelor's degrees that are qualified.
Yeah, they can do the housing. Because when I talked to Mr. Thompson, Commissioner Varona, I told him how much would it take for you to pay for your pension, because it's his pension he's concerned about. And he said it's about $30,000-$40,000, and let me ask Mr. Hanesian if he can help you out. But then I talked to Mr. Varona, and Mr. Varona said, no, Mr. Hanesian's not going to do that.
But how about Mr. Verona?
No, he's not gonna.
But no, but let's look, Mr. Johnson,
Yeah.
let's look at that.
No,
See, you know, the applications you have there, look through those first.
So
Thank
we'll do
you.
that, and then we'll re-advertise again, and we'll get it done.
Okay,
Send us a memo of what's going on.
yes. Thank you very much.
Yep, you know,
Yes, oh, one more? Yes.
if it's gonna take us, 2-3 months and
We'll wait for Mr. Thompson.
well, we can wait for Mr. Thompson if he's available.
Yeah, because if we're gonna sit on it, let's just wait for Mr. Thompson.
Let's make sure
Yeah,
he'll take it for
as long as he takes it.
we won't waste his-
All right, future agenda items. Do we have anything?
The only thing I would like to discuss out is this thing at our next meeting. on
And
this.
information from.
Yes, that information and the selection,
For
where
the-
we're
for
at
the-
with the director.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, and then after that? That's it. Motion to adjourn?
So
It's adjourned.
Mayor.
Very